Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are well. This Monday, November 6th, 2023, we meet today to talk about FTM, Phantom's crypto. As usual, we will dissect this video into two parts. A fundamental part, we will come back to what Phantom is. We will come back to its news, which is still relatively dense. And then we will go into the technical part to project ourselves on average long-term prices for purchase prices, sales prices, and it starts right away. As a reminder, you always have the possibility of having free access to the educational course, which is a 60-hour training course worth €400, which allows you to learn blockchain, crypto, investment, technical analysis, trading, everything to become profitable. Through 130 videos, 400 pages of guides, quizzes to find out where you are in your progress, and all for free. To have access to this lifelong training, simply use the platform of one of our partners. Everything is explained in the comments and descriptions. So what is Phantom? Phantom is a level 1 blockchain, a layer 1, which aims to provide developers with functional blocks to be able to build decentralized applications, to provide an infrastructure necessary to be able to deploy any type of code that will be decentralized and permissionless. That means where you need people to run it, and you need people to maintain it. This is the very principle of blockchain and the blockchain infrastructure and technology developers. On the other hand, we generally talk about Phantom as being a blockchain, except that it's not exactly a blockchain, it's a DAG. That is to say that the consensus itself is more like that in terms of interconnection of nodes, whereas a blockchain normally is one block by block. We can clearly see that Lancasis, which is their consensus, is different from a classic blockchain, in which we have an interconnection between the blocks, which is already done asynchronously, which is a first, and secondly, which is totally disorganized. It's something that allows you to have very rapid results and manage a lot of transactions at the same time. They have next to a solution which is dedicated to businesses, something which is classic and which can be found absolutely everywhere. And next to it, there is their virtual machine, which is Phantom Opera, in which we have absolutely everything to be able to run code, for example, on Ethereum, on Solidity. So what we call a virtual machine, which is EVM compatible, in which we can run Solidity code directly in Phantom. Then we have the notion of gas monetization, which they launched last year, in which it mainly allows developers of decentralized applications to have additional remuneration, in which there is a small fraction of the gas which is used to pay for transactions which is redistributed to them. Clearly, since the return of Andre Krong, who is still the founder of Fantom and one of the founders of decentralized finance, we can clearly see that we have communication that is much cleaner and behind accelerations because on the side we still had a lot of news. We had Phantom, which is part of BigQuery, therefore very important in terms of the instantiation of Google Cloud for Phantom, and therefore the accessibility of data in Phantom by Google and BigQuery. We have two large bridges and interoperability protocols which are on Phantom. We have Layer 0 and Accelerar because we had a big problem. If you remember it with one of Phantom's bridges in which we have liquidity that has disappeared and a CEO, we don't know what happened to him. In this case, there are rumors that he is imprisoned in China, but for the moment it remains rumors. And so we had a little difficulty in being able to have liquidity. And in any case, we had behind arbitrage opportunities which were carried out, and a fear at the level of Phantom. Of that side is what led to a downward acceleration in prices. Alongside, they announced that they were doing a lot of development, notably with Tosca, Carmen, and their client part, which was going to evolve. And what's interesting to see is Carmen, its storage management, and Tosca, it's the evolution of their virtual machine. And when we combine the two, it launched the launch of Sonic, which is the new version of their virtual machine, which allows 2,000 transactions per second to be executed, and a priori, certainly, more, with a finality of 1 second. So that means that we have something that has an almost instantaneous finality with a notion of scalability which is relatively consistent. The most important point for me is the part of the Carmen project, which really allows you to reduce the volume of data necessary to run a node, whether it is a validation node or an archive node. We divide from 2000 GB to 300 GB and especially from 11 tera to 1 tera, so we really had a huge compression of the volume. And that is really very important when we start to have very large transaction volumes here. With a very low purpose, we will have a significant volume of data and we must be able to manage it. So this implies that we have everything to be able to have an increase in the decentralization of Phantom, and it is planned for the spring of 2024. So we'll have to wait. That doesn't change the fact that Sonic is currently in a testnet in which they are running all the classic Fantom transactions on the testnet to see how it holds up. And it's just impressive how it holds up really well. And even I think we can push above 2,000 transactions per second. They had talked about it. And I think we could well exceed 2,000 transactions per second in terms of the infrastructure and what they carried out. And it's true that Fantom is a bit of a UFO in that regard, with their asynchronous consensus. And precisely, the part asynchronous posed a problem at a given moment with the notion of scalability and evolution of scalability. And we see that perhaps they have found a solution, and it will be interesting to follow the evolution of Sonic. Speaking of evolution, we are now going to attack the technical part, which is very interesting, especially from a purely technical point of view, at the level of Fantom, because we have an Elliotist schematic which ended perfectly in the area of 25 October 2021. With VAC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have successfully completed the Elliotist scheme, retracement in 3 times A, B, C, with a very deep C, and we have set up a weak-off distribution in BC, Arkansas, ST, SAU, in which we find ourselves in the sign of weakness, which is precisely in itself an accumulation of wick-off, in which we made the SC, the lower part, here the 13 June 2022 with Celsius. We have Terra Luna here. We have Celsius here. We made a second break here with an STB, therefore the liquidity gain of the SC, which was carried out with FTX, with this candle there, in which we left a very nice AR that we went to get with this acceleration here. Acceleration with a monstrous general overvaluation here of Fantom, which was carried by a set of news and of communications, and the return of Andre Kronga on the protocol itself. So even though now he said that he never really left, that it was more of a communication effect. That's exactly what I told you when we had that fall. This fall and that fall had been accelerated by the departures, and in any case the rumors of departure of Andre Krong. And so obviously, we had alongside an expectation from the entire ecosystem to have the feedback from this developer, which is very important. 1, on the environment of centralized finance, and 2, on Fantom in himself. Alongside, we have a very good acceleration which is taking place. I told you that it was imperative to break this level. We had held once, twice, 3 times. We needed the break to have something that is a little more bullish and actually regain the level above August 14, in which we really had the Fantom Bridge crisis. So a lot of liquidity to recover. And we see that we still have a lot to look for, because here it is. The level of the SEC. Okay, this is the break linked to the SEC. We will have to rework this level. So go look for the 0.33. So there we will really have time to be able to look. But in any case, we have a nice upward slope, but we don't have a break of structure. I remind you that we don't have a break of structure. Currently, we are no longer in a form of bearish retest once again, as long as we don't break, not the 0.33. That's really the level to give you. As long as we don't break it, we won't have a very strong upward acceleration, because there, on the other hand, if we break it, that implies that we risk go RTC very quickly. The 0.46, 0.45, take a breath a little lower and then start rising again. There, we will potentially have the signal of a bullish acceleration. What can we set as a target for Fantom? Already it is a small milestone, with already a well-stocked ecosystem, a technology which continues to evolve, and a war chest which is relatively substantial, more than $200 million, which remain available to be able to finance future developments. So we still have something that is very nice. We could settle on a big wave 2 and aim for a big wave 3 at Elliotist at the end of the next bull run, with an FTM around $5-6 with a price of 1.618. But when we look at Fantom in relation to the ecosystem, I consider that it is one of the tokens that is currently one of the most undervalued in the ecosystem because it already has a developed ecosystem. We have a lot of applications decentralized which are on it. We have a war chest. We have a technology which holds up well. And next to it, we have a team which is really solid, in which, in addition, we have people who actually stay on Fantom, whatever happens. So for me, we could even go much higher and get a much higher market cap with a token that could reach $10 or perhaps even exceed $10, in which we would have a valuation which would in fact be consistent by compared to a top 20 of all blockchains on an upcoming bull run. On the other hand, we must take into consideration that the ecosystem must continue to develop, that we have no problems, that there is always a craze on Fantom's decentralized finance. There are plenty of elements to be able to achieve these targets. You will obviously have to take profits gradually and analyze the project little by little, because you never know what can happen. Why not a big hack? We are never safe from anything. So, as usual, we have long-term projections, but also we have a short-term and medium-term plan to be able to protect our capital. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment. It always makes me very happy. And we'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock, for the daily.